we wanted to do something really rad today, so we used some AI to help us make alternate arts of our favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards. The Cardinal King here, coming live at you from the Cardinal Cave. And today we've got a really cool experiment. We are using AI to help us make all arts of our favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And the AI we're using is Midjourney. So typically it's an AI where you plug in a sentence and it spits out whatever you plug in. But you can train that sentence on certain artists, and a lot of people don't know this, right? So you can show it a reference image or a set of reference images, and it'll try to get as close to the type of art as possible. So if you're an art history nerd like myself, it's awesome. A lot of people don't know that I'm a painter, and my main trade is in the arts. You can say I'm a director of arts. Hint, hint. And yeah, I had a blast with it. So here are the first images that we are doing. So the first guy we're gonna do is obviously the classic Blue Eyes, right? So usually you plug in the image that you want to have your image based on, and then some keywords, right? So since I didn't quite know that at the start, I just plugged in the keywords Blue Eyes White Dragon. And it emphasized the word eyes a lot because it gave me 3 little like portraits of a dragon. I didn't think these were cool enough to put into an actual card, right? So then I thought, well, what if we do our keywords changed to Majestic White Dragon Flying in the Sky, and then we added Magic the Gathering? Because come on, you always... That's kind of the first thing your mind goes to when you're making all arts, right? Like, whoa, what if, the magic artist did a Blue Eyes? And it spit out this image, which is kind of abstract. You can refine images as well, which I didn't quite know you could do during that first use. So we put in that same prompt again of Majestic White Dragon Flying in the Sky, Magic the Gathering. And I like the top left one quite a bit, just because it has that, there's something about it. So we asked it for more variations, and I honestly thought it was going to give us that shape, but it actually turned the head part into another dragon. And again, the top left one looks really nice because if you zoom into that head part, it looks like the head of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. So this is what we got. This is the entire art piece. And like I said, if you zoom into that head, it looks like a Blue Eyes White Dragon. So that's what we used on the alt art, which I'm going to show you right now. Next up, we have Ash Blossom and the Joyous Spring. This one I trained on that classic image by Hokusai, which is the wave. Actually, it wasn't the wave. It was an image of, I think it was Mount Fuji. He has a lot of like UKE landscape art. So we used the Hokusai one, and the art style is called yugioh. And these are the ones that we generated at first. The top right one caught my attention, and the bottom left one caught my attention, and these are beautiful. I could have gone with either of these and been acceptable. So this is the result of the bottom left. And I mean, there's something nice about the movement here. Of the tree, it looks very dynamic. I also love that the machine kind of signed it on the side, on the right-hand side. And then the next image is the one we actually ended up going with the card. And it's, again, same kind of beautiful movement in the tree. Got the ash blossoms. And then you have these kind of like abstract mountains on the back. So to me, this one fit a little bit more because like maybe there's something dark and sinister, a zombie maybe, in those dark mountains. So that was the ghost girl. She's haunting the dark mountains in the background, but even if she's haunting them, like there's still something very beautiful about the image. So this is the image we used, and here is the full art for the card. Next up, we have Raigeki, and for this one, I trained the model on a bunch of images by a German-American landscape artist named Albert Bernstand. And he does a lot of very beautiful clouds and landscapes, and I thought, hey, if we're gonna do a thunderstorm for Raigeki, right, this thing's gonna give me an awesome result. So if we look at the 4 images it generated, I really like the top right one. If we see the more detailed image it gave us here, yeah, it looks like it's a thunderbolt hitting the field and destroying the entire landscape, right? And that's kind of what Raigeki does. It hits the field and it destroys all the monsters, right? So it burns them all up. And here's the result. I actually really love the texture that it gave it. It looks like a scan from an old like art history book, which is awesome. I love that. So here's the final image, and then here is the image on the card. Next up is Nibiru, the Primordial Being, and fun fact, Nibiru is actually a reference to cars from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so how could we not do a variation trained on the art of Hirohiko Araki, which is the author of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So the first image it gave us, I really like the top left and I like the bottom left. The top right's a little too David Bowie-ish, but he has a lot of cool space-based characters, so that might have fit really well. The bottom right one's, I don't know, it's like a cat from space. So we asked it for a render of the top left, which these are a little too abstract for my taste. Well, here's the regular render of just the normal image. This one looks very cool. I like this. So we asked it for another variation on this one. And it gave us some very, very like typical anime-ish looking ones. The top right one is very cool. I actually really like that, but it doesn't really sell Nibiru, the primordial being that came on a meteorite. So we ended up with a variation of the bottom left one, and this one's cool. This is like the monster that's inside the meteorite. So he's like an organic, massless blob that's always moving. He has poisoned the atmosphere, so it's all purple and weird. It has a really cool JoJo's vibe to it, which I really like. So here is the full art, and here is the art on the card. So now we've come to the fan favorite of Yu-Gi-Oh! We're gonna pay the first waifu tax of the entire series here, and we decided to do Dark Magician Girl in the style of Kobe Whitmore. And if you guys don't know Kobe Whitmore, he is a awesome American illustrator. He is one of my biggest inspirations when I paint. So it was awesome to have a machine, you know, be able to try to duplicate his work, which is unduplicable, right? Like no machine's ever going to be that good. But this guy actually gave us some pretty good results. So we did this first render. We also added the tag pulp art in there just to kind of give us a little bit more variety, right? And I love the top left and bottom left. First of all, that top left one is awesome. So just for kicks and giggles, we did the bottom left. I asked for some more variations on that one. It gave us some abstract ones, so I didn't quite understand that like she was going like this with her hand. So I wasn't very satisfied with it. I asked it for a fresh batch of 4. I really like the top left one, but I didn't like it as much as the previous top left. So this is a full render of the top left in the original render, and it's awesome. Like I could have gone with this, right? Like this one's beautiful. Like it really captures that Kobe Whitmore style. She looks like the all-American Dark Magician Girl from Salem. She's got the little hat. The cloth on the bottom spiky parts there. It looks awesome. Like if Dark Magician Girl was like an American girl, like she's Sabrina the Teenage Witch, this is her. So we asked it for a remaster, which the machine lets us do, right? They got it a little either further or closer to the style. And it gave us these 2 variables, and they're both awesome. They're both beautiful. Like they hit the style super like well, you know, they hit that like a nail on the head, right? I really like the leftmost one. I like that she has the little boob window in here. Waifu tax. But the one on the right is very much like a Kobe Whitmore girl. Like it's awesome. I love the detail on the dress. The hat looks really cool. The cloth backing on the hat looks awesome. So we ended up going with that one. And here's the full artwork. And here is the art on the card. Look at how awesome that looks. It's beautiful. Got everyone's favorite card, Verte Anaconda. And for this one, we trained it on a Rococo artist named Jean-Honoré Fragonard. So he has this awesome painting of a woman on a swing that has a bunch of plants on it. And we ended up doing the actual prompt was predator plant Verte Anaconda, so I guess the machine knew what that was. And it gave us these 4 things that were kind of like snakes made out of plants, and they're all awesome. First off, I commend the machine for doing a good job. So we ended up, just for kicks, asking it for another variation on that, and this one came out a little bit more anatomical. I wasn't a huge fan of these 4. We asked it again just for kicks, and I also wasn't a big fan of these. I actually like the bottom left one quite a bit, but it doesn't sell the like, oh, it's a snake made out of plants, right? So we asked it for renders of a couple of the ones from the very first set, and this one looks awesome. Like, it captures that Rococo style really well. The brush strokes are there, they're very soft, but it quite wasn't there. This one I really liked, and this is the one we ended up going with. There's just something about it that's like, it's very beautiful and you want to touch it, but if you look at the bottom part, the round part, it's a snake. And the snake extends all the way to the end, and you can see its head on the right hand side and its little, mouth. So it's deadly, right? Just like the predator plant Verte Anaconda, right? It looks like it's a Link 2 that looks normal, but it's actually this beast that can summon a bunch of crazy stuff. So that is the full art image, and now we have the image on the card. Next up, we have Graceful Charity, and for this one I was thinking a little bit more religious because it's an angel, right? So there's a artist called Luca Giordano, and he did a piece called The Fall of the Rebel Angels, and it's this angel Gabriel, and he's got this like sword. So that's kind of that image is what I trained the model on, and obviously the art of Luca Giordano. And on this first one, I wasn't quite satisfied by these because they weren't really anything like that special. So, and we actually inputted the phrase Graceful Charity, so I'm guessing the machine didn't quite know what it was. On the next one, I put in angel holding glowing card art. And while I don't think any of these is 100%, the bottom left and bottom right are very close. So I ended up going for a render of the bottom left. And as you can see, it looks like kind of distorted and weird. So we ended up doing a remaster of it. And the remaster on the right-hand side is exactly what I wanted. Like, that looks like a very awesome version of the Graceful Charity card. So here's the full image, and here is the card. All right, we've got Exodia the Forbidden One, and originally I did put in the name Exodia the Forbidden One, but I didn't want something that was so like traditional. I wanted something that was a little more abstract because, he's supposed to be this like eldritch abomination god that wins you the game. So this is what we came up with on that first set. And yeah, it's just weird. Like, it's abstract, and it does kind of look like a head of something, but it's a little too alien for my taste, right? So for the next one, we put in, again, Exodia the Forbidden One as our prompt. And we used a reference which was ancient Egyptian art. So it was an actual hieroglyph. And then I allowed it to search on like more modern, concept art type deals. And we also used the words horror and Egyptian in there. So these are the 4 that came out. I actually really like the top left one, top right one, and top bottom right one. The bottom right one especially just because it has the hieroglyphs, and he looks like that is the head of a very powerful being who is just like captured inside that tablet, right? So we did some variations on the top right one, and these are a little too alien for my taste. I do like that the hieroglyphs are kind of like the Egyptian headscarf that Exodia has. And then we did some variations for the bottom right one, and these ended up being a little too alien for my taste again. We did a full render of the top left one. This one's beautiful. This one actually really fits Exodia because of she has the headscarf. And there's something like kind of like deadly and mysterious about her. But and we did the full render of the bottom right one. Like, this one's just beautiful, and You know, like the colors are fantastic. The gold border really sells that he's stuck inside this, you know, tablet until you get all 5 pieces and win the game with him, and he turns into like a giant monster. So here's the art, the full art, and here's the art on the card. Next up, we have DPE, a card that a lot of people hate because they've lost a lot of games against him. Great card, people love this card, but a lot of people hate it as well. So we went ahead and trained this guy based on a photo by the artist Bill Sienkiewicz, and he's a very famous comic book artist. I love him, love his art, awesome. I wish my art could be as loose as his. His art's amazing. Like when I was a kid, I used to read the New Mutants when he was doing the covers and the interiors. It blew my mind. Awesome art. So we trained it on an image from the New Mutants. I think it was a cover where it has like a redheaded. I don't think that's Lana Rasputin. That's another redhead, right? And she's like falling down, and I don't know. She's fighting with like Cloak from Cloak and Dagger. If you're not an you know, late 80s, early 90s Marvel nerd, you're not going to know who that is, but that's fine. And the first result it gave us was very much in his style, so I really liked the bottom left and bottom right. So just for fun, we had it run us another 4 variations, and I really liked the bottom right one. And we never did DPE because the machine was obviously not going to know what that was. So the prompt was Phoenix superhero flying in the city. And then we just did a 3rd variation, just again for fun. Really like the top right one, bottom left one. So we did a couple of renders here. So this one is from the 2nd variation, and the one on the right looks kind of like how I imagined DPE would if he was a Marvel character or DC. Actually, he looks a little bit more DC-ish in that one. The one on the left is straight up just like Superman from the 90s with a visor on. And then we did a render of one of the first ones, and I thought this was awesome, and it looks like his style a lot. So we did a remix on it, or a remaster. And this is what it gave us, and this totally sells DP if he was a Marvel character in the 90s drawn by Bill Sienkiewicz. This is it. Awesome. So here's the full art for the card, and here's the art on the card. Here we go again, and this time we are doing Called by the Grave. And I thought, since we had just done DP and he is a superhero, right? I thought, hey, what if we go back into some older comics, right? So I trained this model on some EC comics, and if you're not a big comics fan, those are all horror comics from like the early 50s, 40s. Some, I believe some are even older than that, right? I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in that area of comic books. But yeah, I totally want to do that. So our first prompt was Called by the Grave and pulp art. And this top right one's serviceable, but it didn't quite give me what I wanted, right? So for the next 4 sets, we did a hand coming out of the grave with a tombstone. And none of these quite hit it, but I actually like the bottom left one quite a bit because it looks like a guy who is being drawn to this tombstone. And there's like a zombie on the left, and there's like a person on the floor. So we did a render of that, and this is very cool. You know, the zombie's not quite there anymore, but there's still like, you see like a person laying down on the tombstone. And there's like a giant skull behind the guy who's going over to check it out. So we did kind of a refinement on the remaster on it. And yeah, I didn't feel like this was anything too special, or it kind of lost its charm, to be honest. So we did another set of 4 with that same hand coming out of grave with a tombstone. And the top right one I actually really liked. It looks like the actual tombstone is like calling to you to come near it, and then that's when it snatches you, right? So yeah, I love this. This looks very authentic to that kind of like early horror art. So here's the full art of the card, and then here is the art on the card. Last but not least, we have Lisa Frank's Kuriboh, and I trained this on a Lisa Frank image of like a walrus in space. I like the original set that I got. I mean, the top left one looks kind of like what I would imagine Kuriboh would look. He's like a very small creature, but he looks like super mad and angry and like he's gonna beat you up. The top right one's a little too friendly. The other two I wasn't super into. Just for kicks, again, we ran it again. Wasn't super into any of these. Maybe the bottom left one can be Kuriboh Spear Mode. So we asked it for a refinement of the one on the top left. I wasn't a fan of either of these variations. They look a little goofy. But when we did a full render of the top left one, this one looks awesome. And it also looks like it was drawn like in colored pencil or something, which, again, I love the texture that it gives some of these. And yeah, that's the full image. I mean, it really sells that it's a Lisa Frank. And it also has the, if you look at the bottom of the card, it looks like it has the plant with the eyes from that first Yu-Gi-Oh set from Legend of Blue Eyes, which is awesome. And our prompt here was Kuriboh, so the machine knew what a Kuriboh was, which is mind-blowingly cool, right? So here's the full image, and here is the image on the card. All right, guys, that's all for today. I am probably going to make another 2 videos with more variations, but hey, if there's something in specific you want to see, leave that down in the comments below, and I'll try to get to it. This has been the Cardinal King, out.